Hundreds of kids have been sexually abused at children's summer camps. A report that was released this Monday has stated. In the segment which aired on CBS this morning, this past week, a report that 21 children have been sexually abused in this past year alone, and over the last 5 years, 578 reports of alleged sexual abuse has come to light regarding summer camps. They reckon the number could be even higher, but because of the nature of the crime and all it entails, this is a reason why many sexual abuse assaults go unreported. On the segment that was shared on CBS this morning, and I will leave a link in the description bar below, a mother under anonymity shared how her son was sexually abused at a summer camp back in 2009. The camp, called Camp La Junta in Kerr County, Texas, her son attended one summer, and it was during this time that camp counselor Matthew Bovee, who was supervising the shower time, assaulted him. He shared, after you took a shower, you put on your towel. He didn't want you to wear underwear under it, the boy said. He would check all the kids, but under their towel. He wouldn't look up under there, he just stuck his hand up. Now, it is interesting here just to note that the boy said it was a group of them that this man, this paedophile, had done this to, but yet he is the only one that has been able to come forward and disclose. This camp counsellor was arrested and he did admit to what he did, but he was given a supervision order. He didn't serve any time. It was only later on that he served time for breaking bail conditions. He is now doing a 10-year sentence. Paedophiles don't just abuse one person. And in my book, Choose Life, which is coming out in January 2019, it's an awareness and self-empowerment workbook for survivors of sexual abuse, and also for people that are interested to hear from a survivor of sexual abuse perspective some of the challenges. I do share in there from a study that was done back in the 1990s of 453 paedophiles in a lockdown facility, and it was found that between them they had over 100,000 victims between them. Now think about that. You know, that is a huge amount of children that these paedophiles have had access to, and it just goes to show that they don't just abuse one. The mother was alerted to something was wrong with her son when he came back from summer camp. She said he went from being a bright, bubbly, outgoing boy who loved outside, was very outgoing, to when he came back from camp, was very forlorn, downcast, lying about on the sofa, didn't really want to do anything. She knew immediately then that something was wrong with her son. And again, you know, this is a wonderful example of a parent who knows their child, their personality, their characteristics, takes time to notice things about their child. So even though that young boy never articulated at that moment that something was wrong, she knew something was wrong because she knew his mannerisms and knew her child. It was only 10 months later that the young boy disclosed to his mum what had happened, and she said on hearing that she just wanted to throw up. She said she felt nauseous, she felt angry, and who wouldn't if they heard that had happened to their child? I mean, come on, this is just like, if anything is going to make your blood boil, it's hearing something like this. But what was wonderful about what she did in that moment was not to show those emotions of anger or feeling nauseous or sick. She told her son simply that she loved him. And it's important that, you know, if you have a child that discloses sexual abuse to you, not to react in a way that will make them feel that they've done something wrong. You've got to remember that they don't even have an understanding of what has actually happened to them, or, you know, what it means for their life. They could be fearful of the abuser, confused about what has happened to them, especially if the person is known to them. It could even be a family relative or somebody that is known to them. They don't know how to process the whole experience and what it means for their life. So it's important to maintain a calm composure in front of them and just to support them. These are key things that helps a child to be able to recover quickly from their experience of sexual abuse. Being able to be heard, acknowledged, affirmed, reassured, all these things help a survivor, a victim or a survivor of sexual abuse. For many of us who were victims in our childhood, we never got this. We didn't even have the opportunity. As a matter of fact, a lot of us were blamed. We didn't feel that we would be believed, and so forth. It just goes on and on and on. But this is a good example of how a parent should deal with a disclosure of sexual abuse. What is interesting here, there's several things from this story that I've picked up from. As I've mentioned about the fact that this paedophile, just hearing the boy's account shows you that paedophiles don't just abuse one child, they do it to many others. It's important for you to know that once they go past that motivation to abuse stage, they are basically the brakes are off. They, have gone past that stage, the internal inhibitions, external inhibitions. They now are at a stage where they're looking for opportunities to sexually abuse a child. This is how they work. This is how they are. They don't just stop at one. They are opportunists, and they're looking for a weak link in, if it's a family structure or organization structure. In the last few years, we have seen time and time again, maybe over the last 2 or 3 years, of stories that have coming up in the media of sexual abuse within football camps, gym schools, Sunday schools, churches. And the common denominator between them, in what I believe is the common denominator between them, is the fact that these organisations and academies have less stringent checks than, say, maybe a school would have. And this is how paedophiles and child molesters are able to wheedle their way into these places, because of the lack of checks. Now, it is alarming to hear, when I was listening to this report on CBS, is that many of the summer camps don't have any checks at all. It's crazy to me to think that this could happen. These are people's children. They open themselves up to lawsuits. And in this mother's case, actually, she did sue the camp and settled for an undisclosed amount. So it's kind of bizarre to me that they would open up themselves to this kind of recklessness of not having any checks in place, especially when you think about it. Places like camps and places do have, you think that their insurance would have clauses that stipulates that they're supposed to have certain things in place to be able to be insured. So it's crazy to me that how, loads of summer camps don't even have these things in place. Is something that across the board needs to be more robust and more stringent. As shared with by Rana Mankouras, who's Chief Executive of Crime Stoppers, she says it is a big problem. She said what she wants and hopes to have happen is that there is a level playing field, creating national standards for all camps to uphold. I'm not saying that in all cases it might deter them fully or stop incidents of sexual abuse happening to children, but it will certainly make them think twice about coming into places of this nature and attempting to do the things that they want to do, because they will know that there will be proper checks in place. These are just some things that I have picked up from this story. Another thing I want to say is that if you have children, please, please, please talk to them about the importance of boundaries and their bodies. It is important that as parents, as caregivers, as members of society, that we empower our children. And in this day and age where they are the most vulnerable in society, they need help to be able to articulate if things happen to them. Teaching them about proper name for their body parts, teaching them that nobody can touch places on their body without permission, and if somebody asks what they need to do, that they can come to you. Building open communication with your child, saying to your child, even if they can talk to you about anything, whether good or bad, doesn't matter what it is, that they can come and talk to you and you won't be mad. Reassuring your child, affirming your child, being supportive of your child, and giving your child the vocabulary to be able to articulate if something's going on with them is going to empower your child. In regards to taking your child to clubs, summer camps, overnight camps, Sunday school and different places like that, you as a parent or a caregiver have the authority to ask if they have proper checks in place. When my child was going to Sunday school, I didn't feel no way about asking if every member of that Sunday school team had DBS checks. These are basic disclosure checks for any criminal record or whatever, and I know they're only as good as maybe yesterday, but it's important that it shows that they have a mindset of wanting to protect children in their care. As the lady said here, she sent her another child of hers years later to summer camp. But what she did this time was not to take it on the word of a parent. This time she did her homework about what checks the camp had. And that can be said about the same about whether it's a football club, a sports club that your child goes to, wherever it is. Check that they have the right checks. It's not enough to get word of mouth off another parent. You know, it is something that needs to be taken very seriously, because paedophiles and child molesters find themselves in these places. These are some of the very first places they will land. It's shocking. This guy was a camp counsellor, never had any relevant qualifications to be doing so, but yet he was able to abuse maybe up to even 10 children that were in that group. And that is really sad. But there is always something that we can learn from these stories and that we can take away. So I would encourage you to ask questions and to teach your children about their bodies. These summer camp incidences do not need to happen. You know, if proper things are put in place, these things shouldn't be happening. You know, the risk of incidences should be a lot lower if things are in place. So there are many lessons to be learned, and unfortunately with sexual abuse, it always seemed that lessons are always learned in hindsight.